Is it true that you're really the creator of Pause?
Yes, that's 100% my crew, the best out. So,
Pause.
you know, yes.
We play that game
All day.
all day. So
All day, every day.
All day.
it's cool.
The thing about that game was it wasn't meant for nobody to know. So we never told anybody. But why y'all say pause? You'd have to figure it out. And then once you figured it out, it was the funniest shit in the world. And you know, sometimes people be like, "God damn, I'm actually." I knew that Rockefeller was over when they stopped playing pause. Like they, you know, the other side was like kind of like, "We don't do that no more. We grown," and it was like, "It's over." I promise you.
I remember that interview when Bleak was like, "I'm still playing."
Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? And you know, and I was like, well, no more collar shirts, you know, and it was over.
Right.
Bink said he don't do that no more. Just think about Binks all day when niggas.
Who said that?
Bink.
Binks.
The
No, see,
producer.
I'm not even, because I saw Bink in Virginia. I know you saw my grandma. I was like, what's that you talking? You don't they used to get back at me. That's I don't know what he's talking about.
You checked it.
Yes, and I did it on the gram, and everyone, no, they wasn't there. It was in Virginia. It was recently,
Right.
and I seen he was like, "Would somebody hit you?" And I saw it on the feed, you know, and I was like, "Why you know?" But I'm not going to get into that. But if he did have that statistic, someone else would have spoke about it as well. Like, yo, Bink heated Dame up. That would be legendary. So I was like, just you know, refresh my memory.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah, but you know, Bink is cool. Shout out to Bink.
Yeah,
you know.
shout out to Bink.
Cool, yeah, for sure. You know, everybody has their ways. You can't judge them for ways.
Right.
You know, they got to judge themselves for that and get over that. And you don't, you know, so you know, Baker's my man.
Well, thank you for creating the pause game because we play that shit all day.
So
Right, right.
I don't know if that's a thankable thing.
Yes, it is.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yes, it
Y'all are
is.
ridiculous. In
Yes, it
You
is.
got to be mindful of what you say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it keeps
right.
you sharp.
Nah,
See,
nah.
what we do is we do things like brain games. You know what I mean? Like it just keeps you on point. Because you know, back in the jungle, you just really had to really know and be aware.
Yeah.
And again, not to give him the alley-oop, but I was talking to Lou the other day because we writing Honor Up Part 2 and Paid in Full Part 2.
Right.
And I'm like, what was the root of how you know where you were, you know, how you were surviving so well in the street the way you were?
Right.
And he was like Cagney movies, James Cagney movies. I thought that if there was a white superhero, there should be a black one. And I'm like, that's all this time you've been channeling James Cagney? Right? I said, but what made you think you could do that? And he was like, you know, I had, you know, his family was already like that. So he was taught things. So a lot of situations that had happened in the street to other people hadn't happened to him, which is why he's still here, because he had guidance. He had a roadmap on how to survive.
Right.
So even as a young man, he had older knowledge. Right. You know what I mean? So you do anything the first time, you do it badly. You know, no matter what it is, whether it's building a house or a pack or whatever it is, the first time you do anything, you could never think it's going to be the best time. It's going to be the worst time.
Not always.
Most times.
Not always.
Algorithm-wise.
Yeah,
you know, nothing is always, bro.
Yeah.
You know, there's always a not always in everything.
Right.
But generally speaking. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like everything I've done for the first time, I fucked up a lot of bread, but I looked at it as a learning experience.
Right.
So you can't expect someone to go out and do something illegal without guidance, without getting caught. So there's some people I know that done everything and never went to jail. And there's some people I know that in 2 minutes they got 20 years. You know, it's not for everybody, but you can't do anything without a roadmap, or you do anything better with guidance.
Right. What kept you out of jail?
I didn't start out in a place where I had to hustle, you know, and I was clear. Like I've always had an opinion. So again, when people were doing things that I thought could stop me from having girls and things like that, I'd be like, yo, y'all bugging. You know, for real. And we would laugh and we would joke, but we were always very honest. And honestly, what stopped me from going to jail was my OG. So like Daniel and Lou, there would be situations where it would get serious. And I'd be like, I'm ready to throw on my black Nike Airs. And they'd be like, you stay back. And I would be like, these niggas must think I'm soft.
Yeah.
Seriously, I thought this.
That's the feeling. Yeah.
So I didn't see Daniel for 25 years. The scene's in Honor Up. So we had this conversation. It was so deep that I said, just run the cameras. Let's just talk about this again. And I was like, why you ain't let me do whatever when y'all was doing whatever? He was like, yo, you wasn't meant for that. I knew you had a future. So the real OGs will never hurt nobody. That's going to help everybody. And they can recognize that early.
Right.
You know? So again, I was a young guy, but I knew guys like these guys. And I didn't look at them as the scary. They were my friends. You know what I mean? And the reason why they were my friends is because they gave me guidance. They taught me how to hustle. They taught me how to survive.
Right.
You know, so what really stopped me from going to jail was the pain in full. You know, once that thing happened with Rich, I was like, if that shit could happen to Rich, it could happen to anybody. You know? And the crazy thing about it is, why was I there? They thought my man did that. You know what I'm saying? We was all there. Why was I'm like Forrest Gump of everything. Like, why was I there for the legendary hood shit as well as the legendary music shit? And everything else legendary. Because I'm meant to be legendary. You know? That's how Harlem nigga looks at things.
Right.
I'm not even surprised. You know?
But there's something different, Dame. You was doing something.
I went to private school.
No. It ain't the private school. It's something that you did differently. James Cagney, you may have channeling James Cagney. Who were you channeling?
At that time, it was different moments, you know? Mm-hmm. So I can say this, like, all right, and again, I hate to keep swinging it, but he's a big part of the DNA. Daniel's not my only OG, the oldest OG. He's just my favorite OG. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of, like, if you see how he is, I'm like that, but not like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a little bit more, but he's out, you know, I'm not him. But you can see where I get a lot of that from. Like, you know, he was always a dude to me that was doing something different than everyone else was doing. He was low. He was super fly. He was a funny guy, but he was a man tough. So I was kind of channeling Daniel. You know, and what I liked about what he did was he was doing something different. Like when Lou was kind of getting, you know, a little bit over, you know, it was like getting crazy for a minute. Yeah. You know, me and Daniel was like, yo, because he was like, yo, fuck that, I'm getting low. And I didn't see him for 25 years. He just evaporated. But he never left the block. I don't know how he did it. You know what I'm saying? but I was like, I'm out. I'm off that tip too.
Right.
So I started looking for new ways. So when the thing happened with Paid in Full, I was like, if he could get touched, it don't make sense to do this shit. And to really see that shit, like just when I was talking about the jail, you hear about that shit. But like El Boogie, she was crying the whole time because she got a kid. I got a kid. To see a child, his heart broken, and him crying, that shit is traumatizing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's traumatizing. So to see all that shit, I wanted to do something different. To Pay the Full shit, I was like, man, this shit is crazy. It's disgusting. When you see little kids get killed and kidnapped and fingers getting cut off, nobody want to see that shit. That's not normal.
Nah, this was something you saw like
firsthand. So that shit right there, I'm like, yo, because I went to private school.
Right.
You know, I was a privileged dude. You know what I mean? I never was struggling in my life. My family always made sure I was all right. And then the thing is, I can't even talk about my family because then you really understand. You know? But I just was like, yo, this shit it don't feel good. And I'm intelligent. And my mom's died, and I'm like, yo, my mom's ain't do all of this shit for me to go to jail. And it ain't no girls in jail. I'm girl crazy. You know what I'm saying? That was really, it was like, right. So I put myself in boarding school. You know what I mean? I'm out. I went to boarding school. And the thing about it is like, when you go to private school your whole life, you never really know if you're better than everyone because they're white. Like I always thought I was better than everybody because I'm black and everyone else is just weaker than me because they white. But I didn't really know if I could survive uptown. I just used to hear about it, you know? I lived in 1199, and that was kind of like, at that time, it was like a little oasis within itself. Everyone in there was spoiled.
Right.
So me being able to survive uptown, I had to prove that to myself. My instincts and the freedom and just the swag and the style, it burnt me out. You know, that we were making our own rules, and we lived by a code. You know what I mean? It was like the code was so real back then, and I was impressed by that. You know? Like I always say, like the shit that really fucked me up with Daniel, that really was like the most positive thing that ever happened, is being in the car and seeing Daniel walking across the street, mad tough, with the bucket, but he had his kids with him and they all had four-wheelers and shit. And I was like, that shit looks fly. That's the flyest shit I saw in the hood, is a nigga walking around tough while his kids got toys. Yeah. You know, you providing and proud. And that's what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? And then like with Lou, and again, this is my observation. Lou just never thought anybody was tougher than him, but he was still funny. Just never thought no. So I never thought nobody was tougher than me because me and him used to slap box with niggas like, he'd pull up, niggas would cross the street, and I'd be able to. Dudes would come to visit me, and this nigga would rob them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd be like, you remember that shit, man? When you robbed Tutu? Tutu came to see me with another nigga chain on a dirt bike, and I'm like, yo, get off the block, bro. He's like, nah, this is what's his name chain. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? With the dirt bike, I see these niggas coming, him and I don't even want to say it, and they caught him for his chain. I'm like, why you gotta do that, man?
Allegedly.
No, it wasn't allegedly. He already did the time. You know what I'm saying? He's home. The nigga did 30 years. You know what I mean? He's home. I saw it. I was
tried.
So there ain't no allegedly. It happened.
I tried.
Allegedly, it went down.
I'm quiet.
So I had the kind of block that I would, the same thing with Dirk was like, yo, I would be like, I can't control nothing on that block. You know what I'm saying? But I could survive on that block. So there's nothing for me to be scared of moving forward. I seen everything you could see. And I didn't have to be tough. Like, I wasn't the toughest guy, but they knew I could fight. My knuckle game was proper. But I wasn't the gun guy. But I wasn't scared. You know what I mean? But I was like, nothing scares me after being on that block. You know what I mean?
This hot for trapper turn smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rappers. Got bars, I can hang with the backpackers. Trap star, I don't hang with the backpackers. I'm in the hood with the work you heard. Making fiends leave earth you heard. Got your baby mama thirst you heard. Feel the flow, nigga, throw it in reverse. This the way you need to surf you heard.